This video is brought to you by catbeast.com. Design your own custom snapbacks and hats.
Throughout NBA history, there have been many times where fans have wished to be able to see two of their favorite NBA stars play one-on-one to determine who was a better player. For some people, it was Kobe Bryant versus LeBron James, and for others, it was Kevin Garnett versus Tim Duncan. Although we can only imagine there ever being a situation in which two players would battle it out, it probably won't ever come close to happening, right? Wrong. There has actually been a situation in NBA history in which two of the greatest NBA players of all time almost came close to battling one another in the ultimate one-on-one showdown. And as you can tell by the thumbnail of this video, those two players were Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan. Now with all that being said, let's take a look at how Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan came close to playing one-on-one. Welcome to NBA Insider. NBA player Magic Johnson played 13 seasons during his Hall of Fame career. He was a 6'8" point guard with incredible court vision with over 10,000 career assists, the fifth most of all time. He was also a respectable scorer, averaging 19.5 points per game for his career. Magic's outstanding performances had led him to a career which included 5 rings and a decent amount of MVPs. Back in the 1980s, Johnson had proved himself to be one of the most dominant forces the league had ever seen. Although it seemed like the spotlight would remain on him for a majority of his career, someone was coming to claim the limelight. That someone was none other than Michael Jordan. He was a 27-year-old scoring machine with unmatched talents. At the time, he was leading the league in points per game with 33.6 points. But unfortunately for him, he was still without a ring as evidence for his greatness. It was also around this time both Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan's careers would come to a crossroads. Since both players seemed to grab the attention of a majority of the league at the time, many would compare their talents to one another. Because of this comparison of greatness, during the summer of 1990, a one-on-one battle between the GOATs of the NBA had almost happened. With Michael Jordan's career on the rise and Magic Johnson performing greater than ever before, the two stars were interested in a one-on-one battle that would have been broadcasted as a pay-per-view event at a Las Vegas establishment called Caesar's Palace. The winner would have received a paycheck of $1 million, which was what Jordan made each year in 1990, even with his 6 championships and the Jordan brand still ahead of him. So basically, Michael Jordan would have been paid a salary a season's worth for just a one-on-one game. The purpose of the battle? To decide once and for all who was the NBA's best player. Was it Magic or Michael? There was a lot of talk about the infamous Battle of the Beasts. Everyone was looking forward to it. Not only that, but both players also seemed to be really interested in facing one another. At one point, Michael Jordan even spoke about the matchup during an interview on ESPN following the All-Star break. In the end, it obviously didn't happen. But why? For one reason, the NBA did not want two of its biggest stars involved in a game that included gambling, no matter how entertaining it would be. Of course, there would be gambling involved because it would have been one of the greatest games in NBA history, meaning there would be a lot of money involved as well. But this was not the image David Stern wanted for the league, especially considering NBC had agreed to pay the league a record $601 million for 4 seasons of broadcasting rights, with an additional $275 million coming from TNT. Becoming a league that was known for associating with gambling would definitely ruin this new partnership. Although it made sense on this occasion, this wouldn't be the last time David Stern has ruined an opportunity at a little fun for us NBA fans. Anyhow, another reason was also because the players were pretty nervous too, specifically Michael Jordan. According to Jordan's agent at the time, the GOAT himself said, "If I win, people will say, so what do you expect? That's what Michael is. He's a one-on-one player. And if I lose, then I don't have the rings or the title. So what's the point of doing it?" Despite this, Jordan would still go on to get those rings. Anyhow, a matchup of Jordan against Johnson would have been included in the list of the best NBA games of all time. At the time, several major media outlets had reported this game was going to happen 100%. Both of the stars had been approached by these media outlets and were even offered a payment for the winner. The matchup would have been free of any teammates, which would allow for both stars to face each other head-on in a game of King of the Court. The one-on-one game was going to consist of 2 halves, 15 minutes each. The pay-per-view special was going to be shown on HBO but not NBC because the game wasn't considered a regular NBA game, so it needed to be shown as if it wasn't. In January of 1990, Magic Johnson spoke with the Los Angeles Times saying, "I came up with the idea. We came up with what we wanted to do and my people contacted Michael's people and we decided to go ahead with it." At 30 years old, with all 5 of his Los Angeles Lakers championships behind him, Johnson was the NBA's reigning MVP. Jordan, on the other hand, was still in the prime of his career at 27 years old, with the Jordan brand, championships, and worldwide fame still years away. Despite this, during an interview with ESPN months before the main event was to take place, Jordan said, "Not sounding cocky, I must admit I would have to have the advantage, being that I would be a little bit quicker and able to use a lot more weapons than he may." This was back in the mid-80s when Jordan was still making $1 million a year. But despite all this trash talking and the amount of money presented in front of him for just one matchup matchup, he still wouldn't do it. Jordan said, "I think it's very possible that it can happen. I think it's very possible. It's still a lot of strong feelings against, but I don't see where it's going to be prevented through a legal battle." A young Michael Jordan already knew the King of the Court battle had already turned into more of a business opportunity than a game for bragging rights or for the fans. And he was right, especially about the legal aspect of things. Despite his love for the idea, Jordan's interest in the matchup were starting to disappear. He was as serious a businessman as a basketball player and would not risk ruining his image, not even for a quick $1 million payday. Gary Bettman, then a lawyer for the NBA and now the commissioner of the NHL, told the Boston Globe at the time, "We're not interested in seeing our players being promoted like fighters in Las Vegas. We're not going to allow anything that is exploitive or injurious to pro basketball." Following these comments, the hopes for a one-on-one game came to an end. Both NBA marketers and promoters missed out on a big payday. If the game had happened, it could have generated as much as $100 million in revenue. Instead, everything had taken a turn for the worse, specifically for the NBA. A couple of years later, an antitrust lawsuit would be sent to the NBA accusing the league of paying the players union as much as $1.35 million to block any off-season matchups from then on. All of this because of the players union. Although Jordan had already lost interest in the idea of a matchup, both him and Magic still did not appreciate the players union stepping in to block them from playing what could have been the most expensive game of pickup basketball. Jordan understood that the union did not want to continue with the game because there was going to be gambling involved. However, he also understood that gambling was already happening within the league at the time, regardless of the league's decision. Even the referees themselves were involved in gambling. Because of this, he said, from their standpoint, they don't want to promote it, which we understand, but they should not prevent two individuals from making a business proposition. The arguments would eventually come to an end. Both Magic and Michael were great businessmen and realized they were not going to fight the NBA even though they were allowed, so the matchup would not happen. Over the years, however, there has been the frequent talk amongst NBA fans of what might have happened if it had. At the time, the odds listed Jordan as a 2.5 to 1 favorite ahead of Magic Johnson. Even Rod Thorne, the man who drafted Michael Jordan as Chicago's general manager before becoming the NBA's executive vice president of basketball operations, said Magic wouldn't have been able to stop him. A couple of years ago, when asked about the one-on-one game that never happened, even Magic Johnson himself admitted, saying, "Michael would win. That's not my game. My game is assisting, setting up my teammates. Michael Jordan's the greatest one-on-one player. I couldn't go out and drop 60 like him, but he couldn't run a team like I could. But unfortunately, now we'll never know." Although, if this matchup had happened, we would still be talking about it even today. It also would have most likely led to more one-on-one matchups with more modern NBA players such as Tim Duncan versus Kevin Garnett, Kobe versus LeBron, Westbrook versus Curry, and so on and so forth. Instead, the Michael Jordan versus Magic Johnson game remains lost in history as what may have been the greatest basketball game never played. As for who I think would have won, it was a pretty tough decision. Magic was one of the greatest players at the time, and there has never been a player like him before. But in a game of one-on-one, I still think Jordan wins. When it comes to individual offensive creativity and production, no one did it like Jordan. He was more athletic, and Magic's great passing skills wouldn't come into play in this scenario. Magic would have probably scored on some post-ups, but in the end, that game would have been all Jordan. At least that's what I think. And that concludes the video. As always, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If I made any mistakes or missed anything that you felt should have been included, let me know. Also, if you have any recommendations for future videos such as interesting stories or topics like this, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. As always, thanks for watching NBA Insider.